Welcome to the 2018-19 South Carolina High School League online rules presentation. My name is Charlie Winsky, Assistant Commissioner at the South Carolina High School League. I'll be reviewing the first 10 slides which pertain to South Carolina High School League information only. At the conclusion of the first 10 slides, the Commissioner responsible for your sport will then take over and go through the rule changes that pertain to your sport for the 2018-19 school year. Contact information for the South Carolina High School League is on the first slide. Phone number 798-0120, area code of 803. We're in the office from the hours of 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday from August through May. In the months of June and July, we are closed on Fridays. South Carolina High School League website was updated last year. It's www.SCHSL.org. Any information you want to find on the National Federation, you would go to National Federation website, which is NFHS.org. And all the courses that we're going to talk about in these first 10 slides that are required of coaches to take can be found at www.NFHSlearn.com. In addition to the required courses of coaches, there are also sport-specific coaching courses, sportsmanship course, as well as a host of other educational opportunities at NFHSlearn.com. Highly encourage you all to take a moment to look at the available courses and to take any courses that interest you or that can further educate you in your sport. Our 5 approved healthcare professionals that can return an athlete to play with symptoms of a concussion or diagnosing of a concussion: an MD, a DO, a PA, an MP, or an athletic trainer. Athletic trainer is probably the most common available to every school throughout the state during the entire school year. It's often the case you may have an MD or a DO on the sideline during a football game. In absence of one of these 5, if an athlete's suspected of having a concussion, the official is going to send them off the field and they are not to return under any circumstance. If they're sent off for concussion-like symptoms and one of these 5 healthcare professionals is present, they can test and diagnose and return to play, or test, diagnose, and sit out. But remember, in absence of one of these 5, student athlete will sit out. Remember the old saying we've used for years: when in doubt, sit them out. Don't ever risk an athlete's help over the opportunity to win a game. Coaching requirements. South Carolina High School League requires all coaches at all levels to take the following 3 courses: concussion course, heat acclimatization course, and the sudden cardiac arrest course. These 3 courses are not new. They've been required for the last 2 years. The concussion course has been in place for a number of years now. If you've been coaching for a while, you understand that occasionally these courses get updated. The concussion course has been updated for this year with some new information added to it, so it should have a little different feel when you watch it this year in some areas. When you get done with these courses, print out your certificate, give them to your athletic director or principal to keep on file so that you have proof you've taken these courses. Reminder, that's for all coaches at all levels. If they're a volunteer coach, required to take them. If they're there 1 day a week, required to take them. Full-time paid, required to take it. Middle school only, required to take these. All coaches must take these 1 time each year. These should be done prior to the first day of practice. In addition to the 3 required courses this year, all coaches are now required to be certified in CPR and AED certification. If you remember last year, all head coaches were required to be CPR and AED certified. This year, all coaches at all levels. Again, that includes volunteers, those that are there 1 day, those that are there just for games. Middle school coaches, sub-varsity coaches are required to be CPR certified, in addition to the required online courses you must view. Coaches, this is nothing new. Athletic directors have known about this since last year. We we made it known that the head coaches were required last year, but moving forward, all coaches would be required. So this is nothing new. If you have any questions on CPR AD certifications, speak to your athletic director. If you're a non-district employee and you're a head coach, reminder that you must take the Fundamentals of Coaching course in addition to all the requirements we've gone over already. Fundamentals of Coaching course can be found at NFHSlearn.com. Make sure you select Fundamentals of Coaching and select South Carolina so that you don't take a Fundamentals of Coaching course for another state. Again, when you complete that course, print your certificate out, give it to your athletic director or principal to keep on file. Okay, some general reminders for all head coaches. Beginning the 2018-19 school year, a wet bulb globe thermometer must be used throughout the year. This instrument will help determine safe conditions in times of high heat and humidity. Again, this is required. For those of you that coach an indoor sport or at different times outside of the fall, please understand this is not isolated to just a football practice or a cross-country practice or an outdoor practice in the fall. High heat and humidity could be present inside of a gymnasium with no air conditioner. It could also show itself through the winter months or through the spring, given the extreme changes in temperature that we have in our state. If you have an athletic trainer, please take a moment before your season starts to become familiar with what a wet bulb globe reading is and the options that you have when it's determined that conditions are not safe to practice full out. If you have any questions, please visit our website. On our website, you'll be able to find the wet bulb globe guidelines in the event that your reading requires you to modify your practice in some way. Again, this is a safety issue that's put in place this year in an effort to reduce the opportunity for heat stroke and heat exhaustion. Don't jeopardize an athlete's health under any circumstances. Again, for 2018-19, Rawlings balls must be used in the postseason. The only exception for this are in sports of football, lacrosse, golf, and tennis. If your sport requires the use of Rawlings balls, please plan accordingly and have balls readily available in the event you host a home playoff game. The balls should be used throughout the contest. You're responsible for making sure that you have quality balls to start the contest with. This is nothing new. We've been doing this for the last couple years. Reminder, Rawlings balls must be used in the postseason. Communicate with your opponents your start times, your play dates, and your locations. Often, many coaches make schedules 6 to 8 months in advance. Sometimes there's coaching changes at schools. Often people make changes inadvertently in their schedule without notifying everyone. So prior to your season starting, please take a moment, communicate with all of your opponents, head coaches, and athletic directors to verify that you have the correct play date, start time, and location. A number of issues throughout our league in the last few years where schools have shown up at different locations to play each other, where simple communication prior to could have avoided any conflicts the day of. So take a few minutes, communicate, and get it all squared away. Coaches, don't rely on other coaches, your peers, coaches other schools, coaches in your region to answer questions about the league. If you have a question about the league as it pertains to the rules and regulations, the bylaws, or the Constitution, or the brackets, ask your AD or principal first. If he or she does not know the answer to your question, have them call us. Remember, the only interpretation that's the official interpretation comes from our league. We've had a ton of changes to our bylaws and regulations in the last few years. Many times coaches who've been coaching for a number of years don't recognize all the changes that have been made and may lead you down a wrong path inadvertently. All coaches are responsible for knowing what is in the South Carolina High School League handbook, make sure that if you don't know the answer to a question, you ask your AD or principal first. If they can't answer the question, have them call us. And remember, all official interpretations come out of our office. Continue with general reminders. Make sure your officials have clean, secure dressing facilities, optimal space to move around. The biggest thing is that they're clean and they're able to be secured during the contest. And if you have a contest, please make sure that you have some sort of security opportunity for the officials to get escorted back to their vehicles or out of the stadium or facility. That security could be an athletic administrator or an administrator at your school or your game manager in the event you don't have uniform security available. But you need someone to be able to help escort those officials to a secure location and then to their vehicles when the contest is over. This day and age where parents and fans are increasingly becoming vocal about their displeasure for officiating, we don't need any situations where officials are being bombarded post-contest because security was not offered. Social media. Remember, negative comments about officials, other schools, other fan bases, or the South Carolina High School League will not be tolerated on social media. If you have a school account, whether it's ran by a student or ran by a parent or ran by a school employee, that makes these negative comments, and you will be responsible for those comments as a school. Coaches and athletes who have their own personal accounts, any negative comments about officials or other schools or other fan bases could subject you to a fine and or other punishments accordingly from the rules and regulations. Remember, keep social media clean and keep it positive. Living Clean Weeks. Our Living Clean Weeks initiative we started 3 years ago. This will be the third year of this initiative. We have 3 weeks, one in each sports season. You can see the dates here in front of you. Our goal for these 3 weeks is that we're ejection-free statewide and that each school participates in a community-wide cleanup. On the ejection-free piece, the idea here is that you spend time as a coach leading up to the week in your season that's ejection-free, really promoting the importance of positive sportsmanship and being ejection-free. Our goal is that every school in the state will go through that week without an ejection of any kind. The second piece to the goal is a community-wide cleanup. We want our schools to be intentional about their efforts in their community to help clean up their community. We certainly don't discourage you from going to the elementary school and reading to students, opening car doors, doing canned food drives, gathering clothes for the homeless. But those are not community-wide cleanups. Community-wide cleanups would entail cleaning up your school grounds full of litter, finding someone in the community who needs help restoring their property, participating in a Palmetto Pride event such as Adopt a Highway. Combine these two, and schools that combine ejection-free and community-wide cleanup with their athletes are determined a gold school for that week. If you do one of the two, you're determined to be a silver school. And if you have an ejection and don't do any community-wide cleanup, you get no recognition for that week. Our goal is to have all member schools listed each week. Okay, an update for you is that for those of you that are familiar with our system, NFHS, that handled all of our eligibility, pitch counts in baseball, transfers, NFHS is now Arbiter Athlete, which I'm sure you're aware of because you had to go to Arbiter Athlete to view this online rules clinic. But understand that NFHS no longer exists. They have merged with Arbiter Sports and are now Arbiter Athlete. For those of you coaches who are familiar with Arbiter Game as it pertains to your game officials assignments and who will and will not be working your contest, while it's under the same umbrella of Arbiter, it's not the same system. So you can't just go to your Arbiter game website where your officials are located and get all the information that's in Arbiter Athlete. Same family of company, different websites. Please keep that in mind as you move forward through the school year. Ejections. I'll quickly walk you through the process of what happens when you have a student athlete who is ejected from a contest. So you're at a contest, you have a student athlete or a coach who's ejected from a contest. Game's over, match is over. First thing you really need to do as a head coach is you need to notify either your principal or your athletic director that someone was ejected from your team. High probability is that they're going to get a phone call or an email from us immediately the next morning making them aware they had an ejection in the contest before. I can tell you, as the person that deals with ejections every day in our office, 40% of the time ADs and coaches are not aware. Do yourself, do your schools favors by making your AD and or principal aware that you had an ejection during the contest as soon as your contest is over or first thing the next morning. Schools are required to submit the form for an ejection by noon the following day. In absence of you submitting a form, we don't have anything to go by from the school side. Too often than not, schools will call and say, we were waiting to see what the official said to turn our report in. That's not how this works. We need to know your side of it and the official side so that we can best come to a decision. We don't need to know your story after you've read the official story. If you know your student athlete was guilty of an ejectionable offense, just say, I know they were guilty. They deserve to be ejected. It's not going to cause more punishment than they already were going to get in the first place. It just makes the whole process a little bit easier on our end. When you write your reports, make sure you report facts, not opinions. Video everything. There's no excuse in this day and age not to have video. Almost every sport uses technology of some sort to practice or record stats or to record keep. It takes little to no effort to set up a video camera and record a wide angle of the entire field or court during a contest. Instruct your videographers. Don't turn the camera off. Keep it running. Football coaches. Biggest problem we run into every year is that camera operators, as soon as the player that has the ball is tackled or the play is blown dead, videographers stop the play. Understandably, you want to be able to cut your video so that you don't have one play that lasts for 4 quarters. But tell those videographers to allow for 2 to 3 yards of separation of every player before turning off the camera. If an incident were to break out in any sport where the videographer knows the camera is off, tell them to turn it back on immediately so the video can capture as much information needed for the investigation. Many times this past year alone, we've had numerous athletes ejected from contests that were disputed due to fights or altercations. Without video, we have to go with what the official says happened. Don't leave it up in the air. Video can exonerate you if you were not guilty. The most important thing we have is we want to get those that were guilty, but we also want to get those that were innocent cleared to play. Once we come to a ruling, we will send that ruling to the principal as soon as possible. Okay, piggybacking on ejections, remember the penalties or an ejection. If you're a coach and you're ejected, whether you're a head coach or an assistant coach, you're ejected during the regular season or the postseason, the penalty is a minimum next game suspension and a minimum fine of $300. If you're ejected from the last contest of the year as a head coach, that penalty becomes a $500 fine. Coaches, again, being the person that deals with ejections on a daily basis, I can tell you, once you've been ejected by an official, however rightly or wrongly you feel it was, the best thing you can do is walk away. The worst thing you can do is continue to engage that official in any capacity. Walk away from the situation, move on, and let us deal with the ejection the next day. If it was wrongfully ejected, we'll reinstate you. But don't do anything to create a situation where the fine's going to go up and the game suspension's going to go up. All you can do by arguing further is increase your opportunities for your minimum next game to become 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 games, or your minimum fine to increase to 400, 500, 600, however high we have to go. Don't give yourself the opportunity for those increases. Another informational point, coaches, is that almost every sport requires 2 opportunities for you to make bad decisions to become ejected. And if you know you've got a personal foul, or you know you've got a technical, or you know you've been warned, or you know you've been given a yellow card, be mindful of that as you move yourself through the rest of the contest. Be mindful of that once you get that first warning. Don't continue in anger and to continue to berate the officials and be upset because they got you again really quick. Don't give them an opportunity to do anything. Make it really easy on yourself. Talk to your kids, coach your kids from that point only. Don't reference the officials, don't question the officials, don't argue, don't get loud. Don't give yourself another opportunity to get that second penalty. If you do that, you'll stay around in almost every contest. Reminder, player ejections. In the sports of football, lacrosse, competitive cheer, and swim, any player who is ejected will be subject to a minimum next game suspension. In all other sports, the minimum becomes 2 games. Again, football, competitive cheer, swim, and lacrosse is a minimum next game. In all other sports, it's a minimum next 2 games. Remember, that is the immediate next game and the immediate next 2 games. Sometimes timing is unfortunate for our student athletes. The next game may be homecoming. The next game may be senior night. The next game may be the semis and the state finals. Timing is unfortunate. The decision to be unsportsmanlike was a choice the student athlete made. Unfortunately, choices have consequences. When they choose to be unsportsmanlike, the consequence comes with game suspension. Remind your athletes, those are the minimums. We've had a number of issues this past year where student athletes were using profanity and disrespectfully addressing officials. This is not going to be tolerated by our office or the league. Student athletes who are using profanity towards the officials will get more than the minimum. Make them aware. Do not disrespectfully address a game official and do not use profanity towards a game official. We would not allow a student in a school to use profanity towards a school administrator with no consequence. During an athletic contest, the official is recognized as the authority figure on the field or court. We will not allow them to use profanity or disrespectfully address game officials. Reminder, coaches who are ejected, you must leave the visual confines immediately and not return. Visual confines does not mean you walk and stand behind the bleachers where you don't think you can be seen. You leave where they can't see you, period. Athletes who are ejected may remain in the bench area for the remainder of the contest. Don't ever let an athlete be sent to the locker room unattended. Athletes are allowed to remain in the area unless they become a further distraction, at which point the official could ask you to remove them from the bench area. But athletes who are ejected may remain from the bench area. Further, athletes who are suspended because of their ejection may be on the sideline or in the bench area of the games they're suspended, provided they are not in uniform. As long as they're not in uniform, they can remain in the bench area or on the sidelines of games they're suspended. If they're in uniform, remember they are considered having played in the contest. Coaches and athletes, remember you are not cleared to play until our office has cleared you to play. Anyone who is ejected, anyone who is suspended due to an ejection is not cleared to play until we have cleared you. Don't assume that it's going to be voided or overturned. If you've been ejected, they sit out until we've cleared them to play. Okay, beginning this year, the open-close season schedule as you've known it for the past 4 or 5 years no longer exists. South Carolina High School League had a sports season review committee composed of principals and athletic directors across each classification. That committee worked from July of 2017 through April of 2018, formulating sports season review proposals. Part of that proposal was the open and closed season practice schedule. Another piece of that proposal was the number of contests, which we'll go over in the next slide. Understand it's important for you to know that all schools had an opportunity to provide input throughout the year at classification meetings. Our classification gave each member of the Sports Season Review Committee an opportunity to share with the classifications what they were doing, what options they had decided or come up with at that point in time. And every AD had an opportunity, and every principal had an opportunity to go back to their coaches and share this information to get feedback. This was not a 1 week or 1 month wonder that was put together in a hurry. This process took time, and the committee worked very hard to iron out where we are now. Again, all schools had an opportunity for input throughout the year through your principal and athletic director. So, with that being said, our new open and closed practice schedule is as follows. All sports will be allowed 20 days of practice during your open season. Football and lacrosse will be given 10 days in pads. So if you're in the sport of football or lacrosse, 10 of your 20 days may be in pads. All other sports, you have 20 days of practice during your open period to use as you see fit. Schools are responsible for having on file the dates you used. So the dates that you practiced during your open period, you need to have on file so that your athletic director has them in the event they're questioned. Encourage you to have this on file because chances are most of your parents will be the ones that will challenge you, or a disgruntled parent or someone in the community will be the one that challenges that you practice more than 20 days. Reminder that open and closed season schedule cannot be mandatory. You cannot use it as a tryout period, and you cannot make cuts. You have no limit with how many athletes you can work with during these 20 days. The open season dates, if you're a fall sport, your open season dates for this school year will be May 1st through 31, 2019. Your winter sports will be September 10th through October 24th, 2018. And if you're a spring sport, you have December 3rd, 2018 through January 23rd, 2019 to get your 20 days of practice in. Again, you have those periods to get your 20 days of practice in. Spring sports and winter sports, there's a 4-day dead period or closed period prior to your season starting. So in other words, winter sports, you have till October 24th, which I believe is a Wednesday, and then that Thursday through Sunday will be closed again until you open up official team practice on Monday. Spring sports will be the same. January 23rd should be a Wednesday, and then you have Thursday through Sunday, which is closed prior to your season opening on Monday. Fall, obviously, you have May 1 through 31, which then rolls right into June 1 through your closed period 4-day prior, which is the South Carolina Athletic Coaches Association Clinic in late July. So your fall sports, you have May 1 through 31 and then roll right into your summer practice months. During a closed season, sport-specific skills may not be taught. Only strength and conditioning programs can be ran during closed seasons. Now remember, strength and conditioning can include agility programs provided they're not sport-specific skills. The change to the open and closed season practice schedule will have no impact as it pertains to the 75% rule for outside teams. So there's no change in your ability to run an outside team provided you follow the 75% rule. I'm getting a lot of calls on that from coaches in the first few months of this coming out. No change to the 75% rule as it pertains to outside teams with this closed and open season schedule. And new for this year's number of contests. You see here in front of you the sports of basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, tennis, and lacrosse. In the past, these sports were offered a number of regular season games plus a number of tournaments. We're no longer getting into how many tournaments you can or can't play. We're just limiting your number of games. You can play any combination of games through tournaments or regular season to reach your max. I'm a basketball coach and I want to schedule 4 tournaments that have 4 games each and play 10 regular season games. That would be 16 tournament games and 10 regular season games to reach my 26. That's fine. If I wanted to play 26 regular season games and no tournaments, that's fine. If I want to play in one 4-game tournament and 22 regular season games, that's fine. The key is that every time you play now, whether it's in a tournament or a regular season game, you count that as one contest. And remember that any contest you play in the preseason must be in a tournament. And that contest counts towards your total number of contests. So if you play in a preseason tournament for 4 games in that tournament, then you would subtract those 4 games from your total number. That would leave you with 22 games to play during the regular season. You cannot play a regular season game or a single game prior to the official start date of your regular season. Any games played prior to that official start date must be played through a preseason tournament. And remember, those games count towards your total number of contests. An athlete is limited to the same number of games as the team. So there's no combination that an athlete can exceed playing the max number a varsity team can play. Example, a 9th grader who plays softball would have 24 games. They could play at JV and then come up and play 2 games at the varsity level. Remember, dressed in uniform and on the bench or sideline area is considered participating. If I'm a girls basketball player and I wear a uniform and I sit on the bench for 25 games and I never go in, by our rules, you've considered participating in 25 games. Please keep that in mind as you move athletes up and down. Brackets. I want to take a minute to kind of walk you through how brackets come to be. Every year we get calls from coaches wanting to know the how or the why the brackets are the way they are, who set these brackets. Sometimes there's a misbelief that we set them in our office, so we'll take a minute to walk you through how brackets get to be brackets. First of all, by rule, brackets for the state championships are to be set by the commissioner. However, our commissioner currently allows each classification to structure and organize their brackets as it pertains to that classification. In other words, 5A gets to determine how many qualifiers from each region, what those region matchups in the playoffs will look like, and who will be designated the home team throughout the playoffs to the semifinals. Each classification has the same opportunity to do that. So 1A through 5A has the opportunity to determine who qualifies, what those matchups will be in the playoffs, and then who the designated home team will be. Understand those brackets are set for a 2-year period. They're set based on realignment. So those brackets are set in for 2 years. Brackets from this year should be different from the brackets that we see next year. The only thing that our office sets are the dates. With that, reminder that games must be played on the original scheduled date by the bracket. Should both teams agree, you can always move a game a day early. You can never move a game back for any reason unless it's a weather-related reason that causes us not to be able to play the game due to weather. Games must be played on the original scheduled date unless both schools agree to move it up a day. You can never move it back a day for any reason unless weather dictates you cannot play it on the original scheduled date. Okay, so once the bracket committee for each classification put together proposals, each principal and athletic director had an opportunity at the principals and ADs conference in March, and in some cases, in some classes, additional opportunities through email to have input into the brackets that will be used for the 18 to 2020 school years. Reminder, we're starting a new realignment period this fall, so you may have similar matchups in your brackets that you experienced this past year. An example of that. Team A went to Team B in the semifinal round during the 2017-18 school year. In the 2018-19 school year, Team A may go back to Team B in the semifinal round again. The reason for that is we're in a new realignment period. Names and faces in regions have changed. Region numbers have changed. Some schools have gone from the upper to the lower. Your classification is not the same classification that it was a year ago. Therefore, your brackets could dictate repeat matchups in the same rounds based on the fact that schools have changed. You could have gone from Region 3 to Region 4 and now end up playing the same team who's in 1, whereas you played them in 3 last year, but now you're in 4. You can understand why you could have similar matchups. But the brackets for this year are totally new and are set by each classification. If you have any questions on your brackets, talk to your athletic director, and they can direct those questions to the president of your classification. This concludes the first 10 slides that pertains to the South Carolina High School League information. I appreciate the opportunity to present this to you. This time I'm going to turn it over to the commissioner responsible for your sport. I wish you all the best of luck during your season. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to contact our office.
Welcome to 2019 online baseball rules presentation. My name is Charlie Winsky, Assistant Commissioner of the South Carolina High School League. You can reach me. My email is charlie@schsl.org. You can also contact our office. Our number is 803-798-0120. Again, that's 803-798-0120. Okay, a few South Carolina High School League baseball reminders. Reminders that protest must be entered at the time of the protest and prior to that next pitch being thrown. You cannot wait an inning. You cannot wait a couple hitters. You cannot wait until the end of the game or until you get down. That protest must be entered with the official prior to that next pitch being thrown. If the next pitch is thrown, we're not going to have a protest. Also, you can only protest rule interpretations. No protesting of judgment calls. And just a reminder, if protest is upheld, we'll go back and resume play from the time of the protest. Scrimmage time. We went through this last year, but it's another reminder for you all. If you just have 2 teams involved, you have a total of 3 hours to play your scrimmage and 4 hours to play time to complete it. So in other words, you have 3 hours of physical play time and 4 total hours from the time you start to finish those 3 hours. If 3 or more teams are involved, The teams all have a total of 4 hours of on-the-field playtime and 5 total hours to complete that 4 hours. Another reminder is you can play a game with one umpire. It's not ideal, but by South Carolina High School League rule, one umpire will be used to start and play a game. We told our officials, assigners, every effort should be made to have 2 umpires for all games. However, you may run into situations with a shortage of umpires in some areas, especially on the sub-varsity level, where you may only have one game or one umpire for that game. Okay, some reminders as it pertains to pitch counts. Reminders that the limits are enforced at the level the athlete pitches. Those limits are per day, not per game. A player who has pitched may not move to catcher in the same game. Remember, that is 1 pitch or 100 pitches. They may not move to catcher in the same game or day. We get a lot of questions on that. Well, we've got a doubleheader in a tournament. Can he actually catch the second game if he pitched in the first? The answer is no. It's per day or game. Home team is the final call on all disputes. If you don't agree with what they have, don't sign off. As I've shared last year, we had some instances where 2 teams were off, 1 team was over, home team's book 1 out. Best thing you can do, coaches, if you want to ensure yourself of having accuracy, is to video every pitch of every game. We have to start taking the post-game process seriously. It just can't matter once we get to the playoffs. Didn't have any issues with the post-game sign-offs in the regular season. Last year, when we got to the playoffs, and all of a sudden we started questioning what other people were signing off on and whether or not there was accuracy in that. And then we had coaches that actually questioned what they had signed off on, whether they had actually paid attention to what they signed. Bottom line is, if your name and your signature's on that sheet, then you signed off and you're good with it. You have to keep it consistent as you do game 1, as you do game 35 if you make it that far in the playoffs. But signing off in the post-game process just can't be a wave of the hand and a thumb up or we're good. It's got to be important to you, and it's got to matter in the regular season. It just can't start mattering when we get to the playoffs, because unfortunately the habits that we've created in the regular season are going to be the same habits we're going to use come playoff time. You make sure you're keeping and recording pitch counts and Arbiter athlete. This is not an option. We had a number of violations last year where schools, middle schools, JVs, and high school teams were not reporting their violations in a timely manner, some waiting as long as 2 and 3 weeks to report pitch counts. This is not acceptable. You should get your pitch count in prior to playing the next game at the very latest, and really you should have it in the next morning if at all possible. But it should be done before you go to that next contest. Waiting a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, not getting them in for the first month of the year, completely unacceptable. And a number of reports, number of schools not reporting pitch counts in a timely manner was tremendously up last year. We sent out fines anywhere from $200 to $500 to address those schools not reporting those pitch counts in a timely manner. Hopefully those numbers will be down this year. If you have any questions on pitch counts or how they pertain to you or what you need to do to set up, feel free to give us a call here at the office. Okay, rule change for this year. It's Rule 613, the pivot foot and the pitching plate. Pitchers are no longer required to have their entire pivot foot in contact with the pitcher's plate. You see right there the play pick where it just shows the feet. The rule used to read that the entire pivot foot had to be in contact with the rubber. Not necessarily it was enforced that way. However, the rule change now allows you to pitch with part of your pivot foot in contact with, as you see there, the top part of the foot, what would be apparently the pinky toe there, in contact with the rubber. That is now legal by rule. Again, in the set position, pitcher shall have the ball in either of his glove hand or his pitching hand. His pitching hand shall be down at his side or behind his back before starting his delivery. He'll stand with his entire non-pivot foot in front of a line extending through the front edge of the pitcher's plate and with his pivot foot in contact with or directly in front of and parallel to the pitcher's plate. Okay, now I'll move on to editorial changes for this year. Rule change from last year has been edited for this year. The baseball we talked about last year, the baseball had to have a NOXI-approved stamp. What was supposed to be January 1 of 2019 has actually been extended to 2020. So coaches, make sure that if you've got a ball that has an NFHS stamp on it, however, it does not have that NOXI-approved stamp on it, that ball is still good for this year, but you need to go through that inventory as fast as possible. And in any new ball that you order this year, you should order all your balls new with the NOXI-approved stamp. So make sure you get rid of the old inventory, because January 1 of 2020 is going to have that NOXI-approved stamp for the baseball to be used in a contest. You see the addition here to Rule 826, the exception 8-4-2Q. Last time by, if a runner correctly touches a base that was missed either in advancing or returning, the last time he was by the base, the last touch corrects any previous base running infraction. The rationale there is per 842Q, which is the exception, a runner cannot correct the base running infraction once he touches a succeeding base while the ball is dead, even if he correctly touches all bases the last time by. Rule 831A. Each runner other than the batter runner, who is governed by 812, is awarded one base when A, there's a balk or a pitch strikes a runner. And the subarticles B through C remain unaltered. The rationale there is there's just clarification. You see the underlined 614 and 511A. It's just providing clarification. 2019 points of emphasis. Remember, these are national points of emphasis as well as points of emphasis here for South Carolina. Reminder, sportsmanship, national anthem standoffs. Coaches, make sure your teams are aware that we're not going to tolerate national anthem standoffs. They do not reflect good sportsmanship and should not be in the education-based athletic arena. Sportsmanship, celebrations, and bench jockeying. Just a reminder that all coaches, players, substitutes, and any other bench personnel, whether in uniform or not in uniform, should remain in the bench area and the dugout during live ball times throughout the game. They shall not leave that dugout during a live ball for any unauthorized purposes. Coaches and other team personnel may not sit outside the dugout bench area on buckets or stools. And this is a continued problem throughout our state. But coaches and other player personnel should not be sitting on outside the dugout, on a bench or a bucket or a stool for any unauthorized purpose. Calling pitches is an unauthorized purpose. If you're going to have an area, make sure you mark it as a dead ball area that will remain a dead ball area throughout the contest. Remember, all dead ball areas should be removed away from the field versus towards the field. So you can extend your dugout down the foul lines, away from home plate, but extend your dugout towards the playing field or towards home plate is not going to be allowable. Intentional distractions, chants, loud noises, or any intentional distractions that are directed at your opponents, whether they're pitching or hitting or trying to make a play on a baseball, do not represent good sportsmanship. We shouldn't be teaching it, we shouldn't be allowing it, and we shouldn't see it. Officials, if you see this, you need to address this immediately, put an end to it. Coaches, if your team's doing this, you need to address this immediately and put an end to it. Make sure your catcher's gear is compliant. Body chest protector, have that NOCSI approved stamp. That's been bumped back to January 1 of 2020. That rule change, remember, was in 2017. Now that rule will go into effect in 2020. So just remember that rule change is coming. Remember that face mask guards specifically designed for a particular helmet model may be attached after manufactured, and that's provided that procedure is approved by the manufacturer and meets the NOCSI standard at the time of manufacture. Probably going to see an increase this year of these attached face guards. Those are approved if they meet the NOCSI standard at the time of manufacture. So coaches, make sure that these additional pieces of equipment that we're adding to helmets are meeting that NOCSI standard as well. Remember that bats should be unaltered from the original design by the manufacturer and from the original production. Coaches, it's your responsibility to make sure your players are using legal bats throughout the contest. Any suspected use of an illegal bat, coaches, you need to get rid of it until it can be tested by someone that you approve to test, or don't let it allow to return to a contest. Use of illegal bats and illegal equipment is jeopardizing the safety and well-being of all athletes involved. No win is worth anyone getting injured severely due to use of illegal equipment. Base runners' responsibilities, remember, they are never required to slide. However, if a runner does elect to slide, that slide must be done legally. A legal slide can be either feet first or head first. And if a runner slides feet first, at least one leg and buttock shall be on the ground. Here's an example of an illegal slide. The runner in this play pick here actually pops up into the fielder. That slide would be illegal. Another example of an illegal slide. In this case, the runner has his leg raised higher than the fielder's knee, thus making this slide illegal. Another example of an illegal slide. This runner has slid through the base, and this is not home plate. So remember, you can slide through the base if it's home plate. Any other base, a runner may not slide through or beyond the base. If they do, slide will be deemed illegal. Runners may not slide away from the base in the direction of the fielder. Runner may slide in the direction away from the fielder to avoid making contact or altering the play. Remember, if you slide in the direction of the fielder away from the base, it's going to be illegal. If you slide away from the fielder to avoid making contact or altering the play of the fielder, the slide will be legal. Remember that jumping, hurdling, and leaping are all legal attempts to avoid a fielder as long as the fielder is lying on the ground. If the fielder is not lying on the ground, jumping, hurdling, and leaping are all illegal. So remember that jumping, hurdling, and leaping are all legal attempts to avoid a fielder as long as he's lying on the ground. In this play pick, you see the base runner is actually diving over the fielder. Diving supersedes obstruction, and of course that is always illegal to do so on the field. Okay, some umpire mechanic changes for 2019. Umpire signals. Either umpire during the contest will tap his right hand to his heart. To his partner, will make his partner aware that he has information available. And this just keeps us from having to yell out or have other signals that are not consistent from crew to crew. So the simple tap over the left chest to your partner makes that partner aware that you have information available for them. Correct rotation signal. This will be for 3 and 4 umpire mechanics. You can signal to your partners which direction you'll be rotating to a specific base for coverage. The new correct rotation signal involves umpires pointing with both hands in the direction of the base that they're moving towards. That concludes the 2019 online baseball rules presentation. I'd like to wish each and every one of you a great 2019 season. As always, if we can help you in any way, please don't hesitate to contact our office. Again, thanks for your time and best of luck in 2019.